Life sometimes come at you fast. Tragedies make your life unravel. You feel like you wanna give up and stay knocked down. Even when your heart is shattered, you still got a life to live. You still got a life to live, so don't give up. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles, so don't give up.
Hello, everybody. This is Carrie Schmidt, and I want to say thank you again for joining me on my podcast, Beautiful Tragedy. And if you like what you're hearing, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And in today's episode, I am sharing my gratitude to my friends who have walked alongside us in our journey. I'm also sharing some things that have been said to us that have been helpful and some that have maybe not been so helpful. Thank you doesn't begin to adequately describe how grateful I am to you for walking into the fire with us. You did not have to, but you did, and it means more than you will ever know. Thank you for being willing to sit with me in my pain. Having your child die is the most excruciating, constant pain that a parent can ever experience. Your mind literally cannot comprehend this horrendous pain. It will play tricks on you and make you believe that it didn't really happen, or you won't remember huge chunks of time, but really, that's your brain trying to protect you from every parent's worst nightmare. Thank you for bringing us food, for doing our laundry, taking our trash out, and any other mundane household task that is too much to think about when your precious child has died, and you have to somehow figure out how to pick up the pieces after your heart was blown to smithereens. It's very understandable that you would want to do anything you could to help relieve some of this pain because it is incredibly painful to watch someone in the kind of agony that we are in, but nothing could make it better, and all of your efforts were appreciated. People will say, I wish I could take some of this pain away for you, and my response is, I wish you could too, but you can't. Thank you for being willing to say, I have no words, but I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. It means so much. And for those who have shied away because it is too painful to face, I'm not angry with you. Prior to losing my child, I wasn't close friends with anyone who had lost a child, so I'm not exactly sure how I would have responded either. To the people who have mustered up the courage to reach out and fear that you might say something to upset me, please know that it is appreciated. I always like to let people off the hook by saying, don't worry, there are no words. I know this is uncomfortable, but I can promise you I am more uncomfortable. The last thing I want is for people to be scared to approach me or to not want to be friends with me. Losing friendships after a child loss, it does happen, and those secondary losses can really cut like a knife. I'm doing the best I can to have some semblance of normalcy again, but how can I? My precious child who was made with love, who I couldn't wait to see what they would become, is no longer here. Everything I thought about life and this world is different. My foundation was shattered. Every day I try to rebuild it, but my family is not whole and it never will be again. And to the friends who've had to move on because it's too hard for you to see someone in so much pain, I'm not angry with you. It does hurt, but this is who I am now. I'm a bereaved mother. It's a title I didn't want, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. I'm loving my child whose body is no longer here, and it is arduous. If you're lucky enough to have an amazing tribe, make sure to let them know how thankful you are. And if you don't have one, start one. Being able to lean on others in your darkest hours will help you to continue to put one foot in front of the other. And I also really wanted to share some things that have been helpful and other things that have been not so helpful. Please know this is not meant to condemn anyone. I really just want to share my heart in hopes that it will help someone in the future say something that actually is helpful, because I believe that people don't mean to be hurtful. They really want to help, and sometimes they just don't know how. I absolutely believe the good in people, and I believe that they want to help. But the real truth of the matter is that our society pretty much sucks at grief, and they don't know how to deal with death and dying, and especially not a child's death. I really don't fault people because there have just been generation upon generation that have been told not to talk about it. So it's been perpetuated, and it's made it continue to be an uncomfortable topic to discuss. I feel like my generation has started to see that we need to talk about these difficult subjects. And I'm hoping that we're trying to do better than the previous generations. It's funny that something so simple can be such a loaded question, but when someone says, how are you? Really, I wanted to scream and say, well, how do you think I am? It's not meant to be a hurtful question, but it's something that we're so used to asking. And we're also used to just people saying, oh, I'm good. I'm okay. Well, the truth of the matter is, sometimes I'm not going to say that I'm okay. Sometimes I'm going to tell the truth, and sometimes I'm going to say I'm actually doing horrible. One of the things that people say a lot is, you're so strong. I don't know how you do it. Thankfully, these few things haven't been said a lot to me, but, people will say, oh, he's in a better place, or God needed another angel. This was all part of God's plan. I can't imagine. I wouldn't survive it. One of my very least favorites is time heals all wounds. And one of the ones that hurt was, I want the old you back. Something that people say, and again, I know that people mean well, but people will say, let me know if you need anything. Some people might say, well, at least you have another child, or at least he didn't suffer. I'm going to tell you that there is no at least in child loss. That doesn't work. There is no at least. Some people will do nothing and they will say nothing. And that is an option. It's not a great one, but it's always understandable. My favorite Maya Angelou quote is, we do the best we can until we know better. And then when we know better, we do better. And my hope is that by sharing my heart, we can try to learn to be with people and sit with them in their pain, because this is a pain that cannot be fixed. It can only be carried. Maybe some better options are, how is today? That is just easier because it's a smaller chunk of time. Maybe today was okay. Maybe you got through today. Maybe today has been a terrible day, but you can see how just asking about a shorter span of time and something more specific rather than so very general, it's just an easier question to answer also. I'll say this over and over again. I realize it's very uncomfortable to talk about child death. And I always like to tell people, I'm more uncomfortable. I can promise you that. I don't mean to make people uncomfortable. It's not my intention. This is my story, and I want to talk about my son just like anybody else does. But unfortunately, my son isn't here anymore. And so it's very painful. From the outside, it may look like a bereaved parent is very strong, but most likely they don't feel very strong. When you're feeling down, weak, and sad, it's not a hurtful comment, but it's just not extremely helpful. And again, this is not meant to discourage anyone from saying, this is just my experience with that particular comment. Saying something like, this hurts, I'm here. It is so reassuring. When someone says, I don't know how you do it, my first thought is, neither do I. It's hell on earth living without your child. It's more horrendous and painful than you could ever imagine. And again, saying, this hurts, I love you, and I'm here, it really helps. Implying that my son is in heaven, that actually does not upset me, because I do believe that. When someone says that your loved one is in a better place, it's actually very dismissive of your pain. And it's an assumption because you don't know if someone is a believer or if their faith has been terribly rocked by the death of their child, because I can assure you, if someone's child died, their faith has been rattled. My son was 7, and he should be here with me. He shouldn't be in heaven. Again, saying that God needed another angel is, again, very dismissive of how much that hurts. I'm pretty sure that no one would want their child to be chosen as God's angel either. So saying that this is all part of God's plan, that cuts like a knife. And I am speaking only about child loss because that's my experience. Truly, I can't really think of any scenario where this fits, but to me, it's a poor attempt at trying to make something livable out of something that really is not. And the most recent and one that is rocking my soul is that time heals all wounds. It's only been 2 years since Jackson died, and I can assure you that time has not healed any of my wounds. The further away from the loss I get, the more of his little idiosyncrasies they're just not as fresh as they used to be. And every holiday that passes hurts just as bad as the last one. Somehow my brain protects me from the memory of the last holiday until I'm faced with it, and then I get leveled again. And I mean, who wants to celebrate any holiday without one of their children? And seeing how it affects my surviving child is really kind of just an extra punch to the gut. One of my friends said, I want the old you back. And it actually pretty much broke my heart because trust me, I would give my right arm to have the old me back because the old me was not a bereaved parent and she was not in that group that no parent wants to be a part of. I want my old life back too. My foundation was shaken to its core when I lost my son. There's no way. I will never be the same. I will never be the same. When people say, let me know if you need anything, it really is a kind gesture. But if I'm going to be very frank, when your child just died, you have no freaking idea what you need. And that comment can be very overwhelming. I needed all the help I could get, but I just couldn't verbalize it. I didn't care about food. I didn't care about laundry. I cared about losing my son. But the truth is that life still continues, even after half of your heart is shattered. And that might be the hardest thing about child loss. My world stopped spinning when my son died, but everyone else's didn't. If we can learn how to reach in instead of waiting for someone to reach out, that is so helpful. When somebody would tell me they were going to bring me a coffee, it was such a simple gesture, but I didn't have to ask for it. When someone is in profound, deep grief, it can be hard to formulate your needs, but knowing that someone is thinking about you can really help dig you out of that hole. Offering to do something tangible for someone means so much. If you're heading to the store, text them and ask them if they need anything. Some days it takes all the strength you can muster up just to get out of bed. Thinking about going to the store can just feel like too much. And again, doing or saying nothing is an option. The hard part is that logically, I realize that it is terribly painful to witness someone who is experiencing the death of a child. Facing people who are living in agony that cannot be fixed is not for the faint of heart. It's very hard to understand this, but it does still hurt. As a bereaved parent, your emotions and your energy are so tapped out every day, enduring life without your child. There are a few simple words that really mean so much to a grieving person. It can be exhausting teaching while you're grieving, but it means so much when friends or families make the extra effort. Letting someone know that you see them, you can acknowledge their pain, and that you love them. This cannot be fixed. It can only be carried. Please, I just want to make this abundantly clear. I am not trying to condemn what anyone has said, and I believe we're all doing the best we can. If you're willing to learn, there are some great books that can really help with how to help a grieving friend. One of my favorite books is It's Okay That You're Not Okay by Megan Devine. It's the closest thing I have found to a handbook on grief. And honestly, if you have any books or any comments or anything, I would love to start a conversation about this because I think this is how we can help to make it better. I'd also love to add any book titles to my own library as well. In closing, my heart wants to say to your heart, we are all just walking each other home. We are all trying to figure out our way through life. We can do this together and we can learn together. It doesn't have to be something you do alone. So thank you so much for listening.